done. All right, let's talk about the Cavaliers, who escaped, and I mean escaped, with a one-point victory over the Pacers. It seems like all of the problems that we've been talking about this Cavs team down the stretch in the regular season have followed them into the postseason. Geltzy, what happens if the Cavs can't flip the switch?
Well, you know what, Alexa, I'm not sure that they can, and even game one against the Pacers. Now, in that series, and we talked about this last week, I expect competitive games. I don't expect a competitive series. But the Cavs played a lot like the Cavs in the regular season, especially the first half, running up and down the floor, taking threes. That's not going to be a style that's going to be conducive to them winning a title, let alone getting out of the East. So, for me, for the Cavaliers, this is all about what they're going to do on the defensive end of the floor. And they were not wonderful again on the defensive end of the floor for the large majority of the game. The silver lining is that they were good down the stretch defensively with a couple of great defensive possessions and turn on Paul George to get the ball out of his hands, which was fantastic. Another thing that's important to note here, yes, they were one possession away from losing this game on a C.J. Miles missed 15-footer. With that said, they were 14 of 27 from the free throw line. They couldn't hit a free throw. They shot better from the field than they did from the free throw line in that game. You would have to figure that gets better for them. But regardless, unless that defense improves, this is going to be a big issue for the Cavaliers going forward in the playoffs. It will not be the cakewalk in the East that we've seen in years past for them.
You know, Geltzy, I love Paul George's performance. The guy, he just shows you top player in the league. He can play on my team any day of the week. But final shot comes down to C.J. Miles. George double-teamed, has to give the ball up. Wanted it back, was clearly frustrated after Miles took the shot and missed it. Did you have a problem with that final possession?
I did, but I'm putting a lot more on Paul George's shoulders than Paul George's, because the reality is you want the ball, go get it. Paul George wanted the ball with 5 seconds left, 30 feet away from the basket. You know what? In that situation, you got to swing around for a dribble handoff and be able to get it going towards the corner if you want the ball, and you have to do it fast. Expecting Miles with 5 seconds left to pass the ball backwards is not realistic. And once again, Paul George furthering a cultural blame in Indiana in terms of not only calling out Miles, but calling out Lance Stevenson for not flashing to the foul line when his man left him. He's not wrong about Stevenson, but at one point or another, it'd be nice to see Paul George take a little bit of accountability on his own shoulders for what's happening there. You're the superstar. You want the ball. Go get it. But I did not like blaming Miles. I didn't love blaming Stevenson. And in the end, what you're seeing with Paul George in Indiana is he wants to act like the leader, pretend he's the leader. He's a divisive force there. He's a big-time finger pointer. And I'll tell you something, bringing Lance Stevenson on board may end up being a character builder for this group, because he's one guy that likes to hold people accountable in a little bit of a different way than Paul George does. He's got a lot of energy and intensity. But I didn't like Paul George's post-game comments, and I think a lot of what happened in the last 20 seconds of that game falls on Paul George's shoulders.